Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Komand Katya. What's up? All right. So, Mario, next presentation. This is going to be a presentation about giving presentations. All right. These are rules for a good presentation. Always say good morning when you start, or good evening, or whatever is appropriate. And that's a good way to start a presentation. Always make eye contact with the audience. When you're giving a presentation, don't always look down and talk. Just look up every few minutes and speak clearly. Vary your voice. Don't go monotone. Right? Don't speak with one level voice. Say good morning, good evening, and then blah, and then blah blah, and then blah 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 blah. All right, and then bambuwa. Okay. Every time in my life when I've seen somebody give a presentation about how to give a good presentation, it has been a shit presentation. Okay, it has just been the worst presentation ever, and they're like all like, this is how you give a good presentation, and they stand up there and they put the audience to sleep. Okay, it's full of crap. So this is the scene. All right, two things. First thing is, there are no rules to giving a good presentation. Every single thing that I'm going to say today, and every single thing that everyone has ever told me before, I have seen people break those rules and still give good presentations. Okay, truth is that anything can work. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you today 5 suggestions, just 5 suggestions that you can use when you're giving your next presentation, and you take these 5 suggestions and you try them out and you experiment with them, and if they work, you use it, and if it doesn't work, forget it. Just forget it. All right, that's number 1. Number 2 is, if this is a shit presentation, just forget the whole thing. Right? Because if I'm going to tell you how to give a presentation, but the presentation is boring and you fall asleep halfway through and you're checking your phone and then you wish that you're just gone for that other meeting or you have work to do, but Stephan's just wasting your time with his stupid, recently bald head, then it doesn't matter, right? Like it's not worth it, right? And I was going to say that you can shout obscenities at me, but then Ratika ups the ante, so if it's a shit presentation, you can throw cake at me, all right? That's fair enough, and just forget about everything, okay? Katya, come on, is it okay? Yes, no, yeah? Shape deal the. Make on the deal at the, come on, seriously. Yeah? Come on, dude, for real. Are you guys going to be like this? This is like a kind of an involved kind of presentation. If you guys don't participate, I'm going to sound like a raving lunatic, which is my normal life, but that's a different story. Okay? So, does this sound like a fair deal or not? Yes. Awesome. All right. Suggestion number 1, okay? I'm going to tell you guys a story. And this might be this is a famous story actually. This is a story that's used to illustrate this point often. So if you have heard the story, okay, keep it on the down low, all right? That's how the story goes. It's really like it's a question, it's a puzzle. There is a train going from, let's say, like Peta to like Moroto, all right? There are 100 people on the train. Train's traveling and it makes one stop and 19 people get off and 23 people get on. And the train keeps going. It's traveling a little bit further and then 7 people get off and 16 people get on. So then the train is traveling a little bit further and then 43 people get off and 22 people get on. Okay? And then the train keeps traveling. Done have the trains. And then at the next stop, 63 people get off and 13 people get on. And then the train keeps going, and at the penultimate stop, 22 people get off and 7 people get on. And at the last stop, 5 people get off and 13 people get on. Okay? So are you ready? This is the question. Are you ready? All right? How many times did the train stop? I have no idea, to be honest with you, all right? But how many people were counting how many people got on the train and got off the train? Put your hand up if you're counting how many people got on the train and got off the train. Come on, for real. All right? How many people were not counting because they couldn't be bothered because like the afternoon, but they were thinking that the question was going to be about how many people got on the train or got off the train. Awesome scene, epic. All right? In a presentation, every piece of information that you include that is not important is energy that someone's going to spend thinking about that and not going to pay attention to what is actually important. All right? So that's why I said, like, because I keep people asking this question, how to eliminate bamboo. Don't include anything that is not important. A lean presentation is a good presentation. And the thing that you need to understand about that is this. This system right now, this system of conversation where one person is standing and everybody is listening, this is not natural human behavior, okay? Like the best form of human communication is I'm sitting and I'm talking to you one-on-one and you're telling me and you ask questions and clarify, I give you more information, we go back and forth. In that kind of a situation, you can transfer a lot of information easily. In this situation where one person is standing and talking like a self-important idiot and everybody else is listening is not a good way to communicate. So you can communicate basic fundamental ideas in this kind of a forum, but you can't communicate a lot of things, all right? So for keeping your presentation lean, there are two things, okay? The first thing is the information vital? Will I be able to express the point that I'm trying to make if I have this information? Or if I don't include this information in the presentation, will the presentation not make sense? If the information is not vital, get rid of it, okay? The second thing is the information transferable in this type of a situation? If you can communicate the information in this type of situation, include it. If you can't, just mention it, but don't go into detail about it. All right? So that's suggestion number one. Suggestion number two is you already know, right, what you guys are going to speak about. It's the problem that I see like with a lot of people's presentations is you know what you guys are going to talk about, but you still write every single detail down in the slides or in the notes or in whatever. Most of you guys give presentations on topics that you are familiar with, okay? So even if you don't mention every single detail, you will probably remember because you are passionate about the thing that you're talking about. So if you can go without slides, don't use slides, right? And if you must use slides, use good slides for presentation. Okay, so I'm going to give you this example. See this? This is a slide, and many of the slides that we make in marketing are not good slides. Right? The reason that they're not good is because we make them to be read. We don't make them to be presented. Whoa, pause, damn it. Okay, we make it to be read and not to be presented. All right? And in a slide like this, there's too much information. It's too distracting. Half the people are reading the slide and they're not listening to what you're saying, right? And you've lost the audience's attention. There are two kinds of good slides that I'm going to be suggesting today. This is one. All right? Who remembers this slide? For real? Nobody remembers this slide? Dude, fail, man. This is from Jorn's presentation about the brand, like don't be tame. It's like the idea that if you see a cow, no one will pay attention, but if you see a purple cow, okay, never mind. The point being that use a slide that visually represents the thing that you're trying to say. Something simple, something people look at it once, they get it, and it communicates what you're trying to say, but you don't need to go into detail. This is a slide from a presentation that Anjana gave. Does anyone remember this one? It was about how the Unabomber had really high IQ, right? This is also a good slide because he looks crazy and he has really high IQ. And the point he was trying to make was that not everybody who has high IQ is the kind of person you want to hire for your company. And considering this man has high IQ and is a bomber, good point. He made his point very well, right? That's a good slide, all right? That's type number one. This is type number two. Do you remember this presentation? Buzz table team maker? Nobody remembers? Right? There was this guy called Bolt. He was a little stick figure man. He went like on a date and stuff. All right? This is from the second half of the presentation. The second kind of good slide is when you are sitting here and talking, not everything you say can be absorbed into someone's mind. Right? People need for people to understand complex ideas, they need to see it written down and in diagrammatic format. All right? So whenever you have something complex that you need to express that you feel people can't capture just by hearing it, a slide like this is good. This is a technical example. This is from Anjana's same presentation. This is a non-technical example, right? It's not only a technical thing, but if you have to explain something really complex, and you can't do it, it's really difficult to show in diagrammatic format. It's really difficult to just speak, put it in diagrammatic format. All right? All right. So that was number 2, point number 2, right? Use of good slides. Point number 3 is, suggestion number 3 is, okay, let me try this. All right, you guys are like put at dead and it's scaring me. I have a bad feeling that this presentation is not going to work out. Point number 3 is this. In marketing, we have this I'm going to give you an idea and you tell me if you understand it or not, okay? In marketing, in order to capture the attention of the kind of audience segment that you want to give your product to, we use different segmentation mechanisms, and some of these segmentation mechanisms are defined along different dimensions. And some of these dimensions are demographic dimensions that define people in different ways, but then the deeper kind of dimensions are psychographic dimensions. Psychographic dimensions are dimensions in which you use a person's kind of identity and idealized identity, and through that mechanism you are able to identify a product purchase that will make them closer to their idealized identity. Did that make sense? For real, or how many people captured that, got that? Come on. Oh my God, you guys are dead. Come on, come on. For real. Hands, no? That was bullshit, overcomplicated, kind of waste of your time? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to try another one. All right. So in Zen, they talk about a non-linear temporal dimension that is staccato and is reoccurring, so that if two people meet multiple times, they're actually never meeting because they're different people. Did that make sense? Okay. Awesome. Point number 3 is use examples. Psychographic marketing is like this. We think that Sangha and Mahela are pretty classy dudes, right? So Emerald thinks that if they put them in a classy shirt, you will buy an Emerald shirt because you think it's classy. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Come on, come on. Awesome. Okay. Point number 3, the second part is this. I don't know if you guys know this. There's this thing that the Buddha said in Zen, they talk about it. They say one man never looks at the same river twice. That means that even though he's standing in the same spot and looking at the same river, the water is always moving, so he's actually looking at a different river every time, right? In the same way, people are always changing inside. So you meet the same person, you think you're talking to the same person you met yesterday, but people are always changing, so you're always meeting someone new each time. Does that make sense? All right? So suggestion number 3 is, as much as is possible, okay, use examples. And the 2 important rules to follow when using examples are, number 1, use something within the common frame of reference, all right? Now, if I were to use an example that was from the 7 deities of Skyrim and how they rule the land and how that's really a metaphor for the way that we think about our different desires and sins, the people who play Skyrim would know, but no one else would really know, all right? But everyone's seen a river, everyone saw the emerald ads, correct? So the best kind of example is an example from your day-to-day life. The second kind of example that works is, the second thing about a good example is, as much as possible, use something that has actually happened, right? Now I could say, for example, if the Jeep wanted to launch their campaign, they could bring Sangha and Mahela in because that would be a good brand sell for Jeep. But that hasn't happened, right? It's not wrong, but because it hasn't happened, it's harder to understand. Right? So if you have to use a hypothetical example, use a hypothetical example, but if you can, use an example that is within the frame of reference that everybody knows, and use an example that has already happened, something that has already happened. Okay? All right, that's suggestion number 3.
So aliens attacking the world it's very hypothetical?
It's very hypothetical, except everyone has seen that in movies, and therefore, you missed the start. I said everything was a suggestion, right? So if you don't like it, try it. Don't try it, But aliens working, it actually works because everyone has seen that image and everybody knows what that is. All right? Okie dokie. Next one. Oh, for this one, I had to write this one down, man. Jeez. All right. I'm going to tell you guys a story, all right? Now, I tried this, I demoed this exercise internally, within our team, and it really didn't work. So fingers crossed it works today, but it might go to shit. Here we go, all right? So this is a story. I'm going to tell you guys a story, and you guys try to remember as much as possible, okay? The story is called My Weekend at Cake Labs, all right? So I came to Cake Labs on the weekend, and Aruna was here, and he was working on a DB project, and then upstairs Faizul was also here doing something, and Asiri was migrating reports, and I also met Marlinda, who was doing like a wireframe, and then I also saw Romit, who was also here, and then I also was downstairs, there was Prabhat, and Prabhat was helping Asiri, and then upstairs also Subhash was here, and he was doing like this menu code thing, and then also Nipuna was here, and he was doing this DB admin thing. And then also, I saw Abhiman was working on like a mobile UX thing. And then I also saw like Charminder, who was working on like a POC for something. How much did we remember? Anything else? Details? No details? Okay, I'm going to try this again. Fingers crossed, all right? What if I did it like this? What if I said, My Weekend at Cake Labs? I came to Cake Labs on the weekend, and there were 5 teams working here. 2 teams were working downstairs, 3 teams were working upstairs. I walked into the door and I looked to the left, and the 2 teams in the data room were Aruna and Nipuna of the DB team, and Asiri and Prabhat of the reports team. Aruna and Nipuna were doing a DB scaling project, and Prabhat and Asiri were doing a reports migration. Then I went upstairs, and in the Elon Musk room, there was the UX team. And Marlinda was there working on wireframes, and Abhiman was there doing a mobile UX. Also upstairs were the menu core team and the Synco team. Romit and Faizul of the Synco team were there in a meeting, and of the menu core team, Charminder and Subhash were there doing a POC. Okay? All right, fingers crossed. How many teams were working on the weekend? 5. Okay. What were the 2 downstairs teams? What were the 2 upstairs teams? 3 upstairs teams. I'm forgetting. Okay. Who was here from the DB team? What were they doing? Okay. Who was here from the reports team? Dude, you guys are epic. What were they doing? Oh my god. Okay. Who was here from UX? What was Marlinda doing? What was Abhiman doing? Okay. Who was here? Who were the other 2 teams upstairs? What was the thing? Who was here from Synco? And what were they doing? And who was the other team? Who were the 2 people in that team? And what were they doing? Oh my god! I love it. Okay. This is a technique, right? I call it information parceling. If you present information in this format, right? In a linear format, which is the kind of the temptation, right, that we all want to do. It is impossible to like absorb. You cannot absorb information in a linear format. It's just not natural, right? It's not natural human behavior to be able to absorb information in a linear format, right? So those 2 stories had the exact same information. The only difference was in the first system, I was saying this happened, and 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 by the time I got to this happened, you forgot what first happened, all right? But the ideal method to like present information is start with what is it that I'm trying to do, what is it that I'm trying to say, okay? Divide that into pieces. So if you say what is it trying to say? I came to Cake Labs on the weekend and there were teams working. Half the teams were upstairs and other teams were downstairs, all right? This is what the upstairs teams are doing. This is what the downstairs teams are doing. The ability to parcel information and like communicate it works, right? Is the simplest way to do it, all right? For example, how many suggestions have we like covered so far? I'm going to the 4th one, all right? What was the one before this? Okay, what are the 2 good examples? Let's say it louder. So come on, bro, help me out. And the other one was? Dude, please, come on, a little bit louder. Come on. Awesome, awesome. What was the example before that? What was the second example? All right. What are the 2 examples of good slides? What's the first kind of slide? Yeah, which shows what?
We choose an image that represents.
Awesome. And what's the second kind of good slide? No, that was an example of this first one. Exactly, use diagrams of this thing. And what was the first thing that we talked about?
Lean.
Keep it lean, all right? And what were the two things about keeping it lean? What were the two rules?
If it's not important,
Get rid of it. And the second one?
if you can't, if the audience can't get it, then just.
Dude, I swear to God, you guys are so good. Oh my God, all right? So these are basic suggestions. I'm going to end with the fifth suggestion. It's the last suggestion, which originally I was thinking about saying it first, but I thought I would do it last because it would make more sense. Start strong and finish strong, all right? Start well. A good start is a start that has a bit of like a bit of a surprise, all right? Or anything that it pulls you out of what you thought you were going to experience and it makes you pay attention. We don't like the mundane. Anything that is like everything you've seen before, you'll forget. So keep it just do something that will pull people out of their normal comfort zone, all right? And a good start should lay out the parceling framework. So I said that we had 5 things that we were going to cover today, and I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that you knew that there were 5 things, and that framework was in your mind. A good finish goes through all the information that we have covered so far already, all right? So we went backwards through the different points and covered everything that we've talked about already. And a good finish should end with the idea of, have I communicated this point clearly? So Katya, has this been a good presentation and have these been 5 good points, or are you guys going to throw cake at me?
It was a good presentation, but I still want to throw cake.
All right, that's it. Thank you. If you have questions, you can do questions. You can clap for me if you like. I'll put that. Just my eyes. Oh, I thought just my eyes. Oh. All right. I thought it was just gonna. Now it's not special. It's okay. Let's do questions. All right. If there's something that you really want to know, ask the question. Okay. If you don't want to know it, don't ask the question. However, if you do want to know it and you're thinking, I'll just ask him later, don't do that, all right? The reason being that if you have that question, other people also probably have the question, or they might not have the question, but it might be something good for them to hear. So if you do have a question, it's always good to ask. If you don't have a question, forget about it. It's not important. Go.
Wait until someone else to ask a
No, you ask.
Okay, so when you talk about the surprise, a good start, so how you have to judge your audience, right? You can't take your shirt off and surprise them.
Depends on the presentation.
Technically.
Sure.
So here are some guidelines on the scope
Of the surprise?
Yeah.
The only guideline that I would say that is really that a good surprising kind of start would have is that if you can make so the 2 things I said was have to be a surprising start, right? And then at the finish, you should have answered a question. And the presentation, the question you have to ask is, have I answered my question? Okay? If you can connect the surprising start to the finished result, that is a good surprise. So for example, today what I said was that the surprising start was that people always talk about rules of giving presentations, but the presentation's crap. The finished question was, at the end of the presentation, I was going to ask you whether this was useful or not, right? That was my way of connecting the finish point and the starting surprise. So if you want to know how to start the surprise, start with, where do you want to finish? Where do you want the presentation to end? What is the final thing that you want people to believe? And base your surprise on that. Did that make sense? Yeah? It doesn't have to be a surprise. I'm just saying it just has to be something that grabs people's attention. But it should be based on where you want to finish. People are mostly shuffling? Okay, thank you, Karthi. Thank you.